There ain't got no way, I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way, I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way, I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No.
So, welcome to this edition of Breaking Out of Depression. I am your host, Brother Andy Charles, and also my co host, Gabriella, is here with us live in the studios. And we thank you so much for joining us. And we are grateful for the fact that you have continued to pray with us and for us as we continue to bring these amazing episodes with these wonderful and engaging guests right here live on Breaking Out of Depression. This episode is going to be extremely special because we've had 2 weeks out where we showed you pre recorded episodes of Breaking Out of Depression. And now we are back live one more time. We are restrengthened, we are resurged, and we are coming back with resilience to share with you our amazing people. For those of you who are going to be live now and those who are going to be seeing this in a while from now, when you see the recorded stream going on the different platforms, we thank you for your continued commitment and helping us to build this amazing community with this amazing platform. This episode is entitled Ultra Conscious Living and Learning with Daphne Michaels. And guess what? She's already in studio, guys, waiting with anticipation and a bated breath just to get on and share her amazing story and expertise with you guys. So without further ado, let's just approach the creator and give him thanks for this opportunity, and then we will dive into a change version of breaking out of depression so that we can accommodate our guests. So, Gracie Vincent is on already. She says, pleasant good evening to Brother Andy and Sister Gabriella and your co-host. Okay, so that would include my guest as well and Brother Dex in the background. So, let's go to God.
Tools and practices. Her lifelong journey to understand the human potential of the human psyche has included formal education, who brings decades of conscious leadership to helping others reach a personal exploration of daily life, spiritual life, energetic and profound examination and human energetic. Her lifelong journey to understand her life's mission is to empower others to achieve elevated consciousness, formal education, HB in behavioral science, in addition to having facilitated over personal exploration private transformational sessions and a profound examination of human energetic 35 leadership transformational. Her life's mission is to empower others to achieve over 700 original training movements. These in addition to having spiritual coaching, 20,000 training transformational sessions, spiritual healing training and spiritual direction training. 35 conscious leader training supports leaders in embracing leadership over 700 original training consciousness. These include topics related to spiritual coaching, beginnings, Daphne Michaels training, set out spiritual healing training and spiritual direction training, guide and conscious potential leader training supports leaders in embracing leadership. Real turning point in Daphne's life came during a period of introspection and transformation when she had an experience Daphne Michaels consciousness set out with a clear path to becoming an ultra consciousness guide and human potential from a higher perspective that the lines that separate us, the real inside ourselves in Daphne's life, one another are actually strings of light and also connect when she had an experience one humanity ultra consciousness at the age of 19. Her story is one of continuous self-discovery from a higher perspective that the lines that separate us personal growth inside ourselves and between one another are actually strings of light that also connect us together as one humanity. Welcome our special guest in the house today. In fact, her story is one of continuous self-discovery marked by moments of intense personal growth and the desire to help others unlock their full potential. So without further ado, let us welcome our special guest in the house today, Daphne Michaels.
It feels like I'm being invited into your home. And that's a very special way to start. Thank you so much. So thank you again. A warm welcome.
Yes, most welcome.
I just thank you so much for inviting me into your home. And I'm saying home because this is what it feels like. It feels like I'm being invited into your home. And that's a very special way to start. So thank you again.
You're
yes,
very,
most
very
definitely.
blessed, and we are very encouraged to have you here. And we know that this is going to be a wonderful time we will spend together just sharing content and valuable information. So, from
Absolutely.
lady to lady, I will give Gabriella the first run at welcoming Daphne home and making her more comfortable so she can produce good content for our viewers.
Thank you so much, Andy and Daphne. Thank you so much for joining us today. And oh, I love your smile. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let us get the ball rolling. So Daphne, you have such a powerful, unique journey from behavioral science to spiritual exploration. What initially drew you to explore human consciousness and at such a deep level?
So my journey was actually the opposite. It started with an experience of human consciousness and then trying to figure out my path forward. That led me to behavioral science.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And can you tell us about the HSB movement? Can you tell us more about it and what kind of transformation did you get and offer from that actual movement?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just kind of giving you a little bit more detail in terms of my own journey.
Yeah.
As you mentioned in the introduction, I had a very powerful awakening when I was 19 years old.
Yes.
And through this awakening, I realized that there is so much more to life than where we get trapped in our daily lives. In, feeling that we're stuck or feeling that we're limited or even depressed. I mean, this is breaking out of depression. So, so I think a lot of people are living with some level of depression. And at 19, something shifted in me. And I thought, oh, there's another way to live. And everything opened up at that point. So trying to find my way through that experience into a normal life, per se, that was the challenge. Because at 19, where do you go to work when you have this kind of experience?
Yes.
And where do you go to help? Right? I mean, like, where's the place? Where do you go to school? So I started off on a path, and the closest thing that I could find was to go into psychology. And so I went into psychology and I became a psychotherapist, and I worked in mainstream medicine, which was great because I have a very strong background in psychology from a mainstream medicine, behavioral science kind of perspective. And I even worked with addictions. And but what I found is that the healing never happened there. The healing always happened in the person's spirit. And that is just the way it is, period. You cannot go get healed. You have to shift something inside yourself, and that starts the healing.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So that just started a really big journey. I wanted to understand what this meant from a scientific standpoint, because now, if you're talking about spirituality, you're talking about spiritual healing, you're now outside of the realm of psychotherapy, right? In fact, there is a line in psychotherapy generally that says if you're a clinical psychotherapist, you really can't talk about those things because now you're not within the container of clinical support.
Yeah.
So then my journey expanded out of that, and I went, and so I started studying at a different level, at a doctoral level actually, to try to figure out, okay, what territory am I in then, right? If I'm not in a psychological framework completely, but I'm also not, I have no interest in being a guru or anything like that, right? Like, okay, so what is this? Where do I position myself to support people? So that just kind of evolved into me being a teacher. And so basically what I did was I had an institute for about 20 years where I would bring groups of people into my institute for a year-long program, and we would dive very deeply into their process of healing and evolution of consciousness, because both of these things are the same thing. They're the same thing. The healing that we do at a deep level is also evolving our consciousness. So that became fascinating. And what I was seeing, because I was still working clinically with some people, but I was also doing this very expanded framework that was outside of that paradigm, where we were just working with quantum mechanics. You know, quantum mechanics says that basically there's a way that our psyche comes together, mind, body, spirit, dreams, that makes sense, like a puzzle, and that we have to integrate. We have to integrate at a very deep level to reach our human potential. So I started working in both realms, and I could see how people that stayed within a clinical framework really had a more difficult time. People who worked in an energetic or a spiritual framework, they accelerated in their consciousness. They would have awakenings, you know, realizations, insights, ahas. So really trying to understand what that's all about. My work evolved into, you know, really facilitating the development of ultra consciousness with people. That became the SHIB movement, because the SHIB movement is about stewards of a higher bandwidth. So it's just a way to say anybody who wants to develop their consciousness at a very high and deep level, regardless of religion, regardless of political affiliation, all walks of life, regardless of who you are, where you live, whatever, we can come together. Because ultimately, the evolution of consciousness leads to unity consciousness. We come together. So that's where I'm at now. I'm really motivated to help people come out of the limitations and into the expansion of what we can do individually and together as we evolve.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is. And someone who feels stuck, if you were to advise someone who is in a constant cycle of depression or fog, feeling, you know, burnt out or all these things, how does ultra consciousness really offer them that experience compared to the traditional coping tools that you would normally usually dispense? How does the ultra consciousness differ?
Okay, so this is going to be a lot too.
Yeah, we will take it in.
It's a lot, right? It's a lot. It's a big conversation.
Yes.
First of all, I would say that there are different levels of depression. So if we're talking about a very serious clinical depression, then I always tell people, work with a professional, right? Work with a professional, a clinical doctor, whatever. Get that kind of support. Even if you do ultra consciousness work or spiritual work, if the depression is severe, it is very dangerous to try to treat it on your own.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of chemistry involved, and we just want to make sure, I want to make sure that everybody understands that if it's a true clinical depression, that does belong in the realm of being medically treated, or at least medically followed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other level of depression, which is really about a depressed spirit.
Wow.
Right? Like literally contracted, depressed, weighted on top of weight, where the spirit of the person cannot get through. That's another issue. And that's where I work. And that's where you work, I would imagine, right? To free the spirit. And so from my model, which is, you know, all of these models, whatever they are, they're all kind of saying the same thing on one level. It's just different language, right? So I'll speak it in my language, which is that from a quantum mechanics level, because we're working with energetics, so we're working with frequency and vibration. Yeah. And I cannot tell you how excited I am here to be able to talk about this, because 20 years ago, nobody knew what this was. But now people are like, oh yeah, vibration, frequency, isn't it cool? Like, yes, this is exactly where we need to talk.
Right.
So from that level, we're not solid beings. We're not solid beings. We are energy fields. Okay, so the denser our energy, the less flow we're going to get through our bodies, through our minds, through our emotions, and the less movement we're going to get in our life. So we have to have flow. Whenever there is a blocked or undeveloped pathways in our psyche, that's where the development comes through, right? We have to look at development, because sometimes trauma will block us, right? Or just life will block us.
Yeah.
But more often than that, we just haven't developed what we need to develop inside ourselves to live at a higher level. So the way that this model helps people get unstuck is by helping them elevate their mind, their thinking, their consciousness, and the flow in their life, so they can get some traction. And from that traction, they can begin to look at their lives from a higher perspective and say, okay, what are the issues here? Why am I living a depressed life? And where can I start pushing my life forward so that I can get flow, so that I can get action, activity, movement, and with the movement, we gain momentum. And with the momentum, we move toward transformation. And that's a very personal journey, but it's always the same technology in terms of we are human instruments of energy, and the technology is exactly the same. Our journey is really different.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm beginning to think that we are going back to school here, Daphne.
Yeah, we are. She's really giving us some information here.
So Dr. Charles is on, and he has two comments. So Lexa, put up the first one, and let us get a reaction from Daphne. So the first one says, what's been spoken of with respect to quantum reality deals with the frequency of bioresonance or bioresonance of all materials, including cellular matter. As a result, this will affect the emotional and mental states through awareness. Your comments, Daphne, and then I'll give you the other one that you put up.
Yeah. So, is this a question for me to answer?
No, it's a comment that he made. I just want your response on it.
So yes, I agree. Anthony, I agree. I agree with you. And the way that I would say this is that, yes, I mean, obviously, Anthony, you are in the exploration of quantum reality, which is amazing. And I'm so happy, because I think every single person on this planet should be in the exploration of quantum reality. As it becomes more common to talk about it from a scientific perspective, We also, those of us who really understand that it goes beyond science and it moves into understanding our own spirit and our own spiritual development, and we do consider frequencies and bioresonance of all materials, including cellular matter. Let me just bring this into a practical example. A lot of times people can walk into a room and feel the vibration. They can feel the vibe. We'll just say feel the vibe.
Yeah.
If there was a lot of, let's say, trauma or something like that that happened in that space, it's very likely that the material in that space is going to carry that vibration. Right? That's why healers go into spaces and they shift the energy in the space. There's a lot of healers right now that will do that. So energy healers will, because of this issue, because of bioresonance. Another example on the other side is that we always feel good when we're in nature. So we have cellular material, cellular matter all around us, solid material that is putting off a frequency that supports our spirit. So that's an example of quantum reality. And all quantum reality means is something smaller than we can see. So we can't see it with our regular eyes, but as our consciousness develops, we begin to perceive it.
Yeah.
And we begin to perceive quantum reality because we know how we feel. So when we go into nature, we automatically feel like this because of the bioresonance.
Okay. Wow. So we have a roll here. He has another one, and it says, what she's speaking of on a physical level directly affects the mitochondria of the cell through the quantum frequency field. I am lost there, trust me.
Okay.
Science.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. Yes. Do you want me to explain this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
for our audience as well, so that they get clear understanding of what this really means.
Yes, exactly. So what this really means is that, you've probably heard of the term life force.
Yes.
Right? People say increase your life force. They also may say increase your chi. They also might say increase your prana, right? It's all talking about the same thing. Now, this is super interesting because when we're talking about energy on this level, we're talking about life-giving energy, okay? So think about this. If you are in the middle of the city, and let's say you walk out of your hotel, and there's a lot of pollution, and you take a deep breath in, is that air filled with life force or not?
Wow.
Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's contaminated. So the prana, the chi, the life force is not in that air so much. Okay? Go to the mountains where the air is very fresh. Walk out of your cabin. Take a deep breath. And not only are you getting a better quality of air, oxygen, you're also getting a connection to spirit because it feels so beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just air, it's a living experience of connection.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So whenever we're talking about life force, we're not just talking about something that is devoid of humanity or devoid of the magic of the universe. We're talking about something that carries our spirit.
Yeah.
The mitochondria is the cellular activity that sparks inside our cells that keeps us vital.
Right.
So vitality is a big word in quantum mechanics. And same thing with flow. What is flowing through our body? What's flowing is vitality. And the vitality is more than just electricity. It is our living spirit. Okay? So what Anthony is talking about is that when we work energetically, when we start tapping into higher vibrations, like being out in nature, that is resetting our mitochondria in every cell of our body to wake up a little more, to allow our spirit to be more present in our body.
Okay. Wow. Really
learning a lot.
So Bernadine has a comment. Welcome, Bernadine. If you could put it up there for us. Right. She says, "Good night, everyone. Very interesting and deep program. I'd love to seek some comments from her later on because we always admire her wisdom." Right, Gabriella?
Yes, very correct.
I'm going to hand Daphne back over to you, and after that, we're going to have the thought of the week.
No problem. All right, so Daphne, let's dive a little more deeper. How does how does unresolved energetic tension within the body contribute to mental health struggles like depression, and how can one begin to release that tension?
Wow, it's a good question.
So it's a great question. I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
So, there are so many ways to heal from depression. Well, let me put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way, but there are so many paths to take.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard to say, what is the best path for a person. So what I've noticed in terms of people that are interested in ultra consciousness, which means the evolution of their spirit through an energetic model, they feel called to it, right? There's something that wakes up in them about these conversations, during these conversations, where they're like, oh my gosh, I think I know what you're talking about. Okay. So the first step in using this model to break free from depression is curiosity, right? It's curiosity. And because nothing is going to, this model cannot save anybody, right? It's not like a way that, okay, do it to me kind of thing, put the treatment on me. That's not the way that it works, really, if you're living it. There are energy healing technologies that can really support a person, but the actual mechanism that starts the process in the individual to wake up, to start pushing through the blocks, to start coming out of a sense of disempowerment. It's curiosity. So if you are curious about energetics, that is going to start the process. That's what I would say.
Okay. No problem. Cool. And are there specific energy centers in the bodies where burnout and stress and anxiety accumulates, and what simple practice could help support to realign that area?
So there are practices. There's lots of different practices. So I would even say mindfulness is part of it.
Yeah.
Right? Or prayer, right? Meditation, prayer, anything that is going to activate the life force, the spirit of the person, is because we need to give ourselves a little help, right? If we're buried by our own emotion, right, that has been unprocessed, whatever that is, or we feel stuck, we've got to get something to spark inside ourselves. And then from there, we can we can support that process. Okay, so there is something that I do teach.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. This is just a very simple, although it's pretty profound, but it's very simple. And what it is it is just an awareness of sitting and tapping into an area above our head, right? Like a string is pulling us out of our head, right? Like a string is pulling us up. Okay, what does this do? For most people, it activates their core, right? They have to sit up a little bit and it activates their torso. Okay, when we activate our torso, what are we doing? We're activating our glandular system, right? That's where all of our glands are, right? They're also called the chakras in energy work.
Yeah.
So getting an activation and a flow and a breathing type of exercise can be extremely valuable when you are just trying to get a little more life force moving. And from there, you can go all the way up to sky, right? If it feels comfortable, you just keep lifting yourself, not like you want to take yourself completely out of your body, but you do want to take yourself out of the experience of being stuck. So getting into a lighter frequency, right, can be extremely helpful. And to support that, you can imagine just a wave of light moving up through your central channel, right? And then imagine that wave of light extending out to arm's length so that you're surrounded in this nice light, right? And then there are other things you can do to develop these centers that are, it takes a little bit more time to explain those. But let me say this, there are natural ways to do this, okay? People that study with me are very interested in the evolution of consciousness from a quantum mechanical level. And what I teach is evolution of consciousness. So it's not something that can happen in, a half hour, right? People, kind of get on the path and they're using their own life to move forward. However, when you think about what I just shared, think about how similar that is to taking a good walk in the morning, right? It's very similar to just getting outside. You're activating your core, you're activating your chakra system, you're lifting up and noticing the trees, you're noticing the sky, you're kind of out of your problems and you're into this other realm, which shifts the vibration so that you can wake up. You can start planning your way forward. Interesting thing about that, there are so many studies that say that walking several times a week is as effective as medication. Now that's something that if anybody's on medication, they need to discuss with their doctor. But there is a lot of research, and doctors will say oftentimes either start walking on a regular basis or we can try this medication. Which do you want to do? Because of how it really shifts the energy in the person's life. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah,
in terms of something practical.
Practical, yes.
Daphne and Gabriella, I could bear witness with what you just said, because my wife went to a physician recently, and what he discovered, he said to her, "You have a choice. You can either go on this exercise regimen, or I can give you medication." And she quickly responded, "Exercise regimen. I will do whatever it takes. If I had to get up early or whatever it takes, I am going to do it and get it done." So I support that. I fully endorse that. I understand the power of that And yeah, the research is there, but also the practical experience as well. Thank you so much. So now, Dex, give us the thought of the week. Let's get a little breather here for Daphne. She's been sharing so much nuggets. Okay, great. When we surrender to life, it rewards us with tokens of hope and memories of resilience. So let me repeat that. Thought of the week. When we surrender to life, it rewards us with tokens of hope and memories of resilience. Sometimes we try to fight life too much. You can't fight it because it's a force all of its own. So you have to manage yourself within it and take the tokens of hope that it gives you, and always remember it can give you memories of resilience. In other words, the ability to just bounce back again and again and again. Okay, so we have a comment by Gracie. Thank you, Dex, for the thought of the week. Let's put it up. She says, she means as a diabetic, I walk a lot and I does feel really good. All right. So again, yeah, again, we have evidence supporting what Daphne is alluding to. So back to you, Gabriella.
Piggybacking on the fact that he was explaining about, just shifting that energy to feel good at the particular moment and just to deviate from the problem itself. How long or what's the likelihood of the person, slipping back into that space when that energy drops?
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
that's a really great question.
Yes, it is.
So you're asking how long does the energy stay
Yeah.
when you do the exercise, and when does it drop?
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting question. In my work, they call it riding the wave,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And falling off the wave,
Hmm.
right? And then trying to get back on the wave.
Hmm.
So, as it turns out, riding the wave is an art, right? It's
Right.
just like surfing. And the thing is that when we build the vibration in our body over time, and we do this through our energetic exercises, like I just talked about, literal energetic exercises to get the energy of the body vibrating at a higher frequency. And we do this through processing emotion that needs to be processed, because unprocessed emotion is going to weigh us down,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So the thing about processing emotions is that as we work energetically, we're no longer processing emotions in the old way. And you can probably relate to this on your own path, because what happens is that we can shift from deep grief to feeling good in a matter of hours through energetic processes, whereas it may take 6 months in a psychotherapeutic on a psychotherapeutic journey,
Hmm.
right? Because energetics are so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they're so fast in terms of being able to process things. Okay, so we get right with our spirit, we get right with our physical body, we get right with our heart or our emotions, and then we have to get right with our mind, because our mind is going to take us back down.
Hmm.
If we run into a situation in life and we get discouraged, that mental talk is actually what takes us back down. So it's not a matter of getting pumped up by the energy, like we're pumped up like a balloon and then it just kind of dissipates.
Yeah.
It's more like we're pumped up, and then we have to be responsible with the way we manage our own emotions and the way we manage our own thoughts in order to stay on that higher frequency. And that's the journey. That is the journey. Yeah. And so there's ways that we learn how to become masters at that journey. For instance, if we go out there into the world and we're just like on a wave, we're in the flow, things are happening, we're actually magnetizing things to us. It's just going fantastic. And then we have a situation where it just puts us down, right? Somebody rains on our parade, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, you just, you're raining on my parade, right?
Yeah.
In that moment, if we cannot hold our energy in this higher place because we just got rained on, then we need to get to a safe place where we can recover.
Okay.
Right? So where is that safe place?
Mm-hmm.
So it's some kind of sanctuary environment because of what we talked about earlier. It's some place that is safe. So either it's with a friend or with a loved one or somebody that understands us, or an actual location, a place, a home, or some place where we cannot let our mind turn against us because we had this experience, but we can say, what can I learn from this experience? That was a situation where I was so on top of it, and then I went down in a heartbeat. So what can I learn? And so, part of it is the lesson that Andy, you just talked about. How do I surrender to that? How do I surrender to my higher frequency?
Yeah.
Right? Not going down. How do I surrender up? And so, and so we learn. So then we start living our life as trying to gain mastery over our own mind, over our own heart, over our own physical body, so that we can stay in these higher frequencies for longer periods of time, because as we do, we manifest our entire life on that higher frequency. We start creating our life. Our old life starts going away and our new life starts coming forward. And that happens over and over and over again on this journey.
Wow.
So Gabriela, I see Anthony, Dr. Charles has another comment there. Right. So he's given us flow F frequency.
Flow.
L light. O W wisdom.
Wow.
Anthony
continues.
Anthony gets it.
He gets it. All right. Okay. Okay. We all gonna get it. We just have.
Oh, you have it. I can see energetically, so I know that both of you already have it. It's just a different language.
Yes. It's just in a different language.
It's another language, right? Which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Truly amazing. Yeah, Gabs, go ahead.
Right. So I just want to piggyback again. When it came to, initially you talked about, the fact that person needs to be, curious. What is the role does self-awareness play in this capacity of a person knowing their own energetic blueprint, in the sense that somebody who might be burnt out, who might be anxious, who might be depressed, might have a different self-awareness and a compass to work with? What role does self-awareness play in not just healing them, but allowing them to prevent them from reaching back into that place of overwhelm or emotional spirals?
So this is interesting because self-awareness is awareness of self, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody is in a place where they are stuck and they know they're not thriving, put it this way, they're not happy with their life, they're not happy with their situation, they're not happy with themselves, they just feel like things aren't working for them, okay? The place that self-awareness comes in, being aware of self, is in those two places. What am I thinking and what am I feeling? Okay, let me be aware. Let me stop. What am I thinking? And what am I feeling? Because we have to create a portal with our mind into a better place. And if our mind keeps telling us, I'm stuck, this is never going to change, this is awful, this isn't going to change, this is really bad, I really don't like this, da 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 da, those words vibrate.
Yeah.
They have a frequency, and they're going to keep us exactly right there. Same thing with our heart. If we're mad, if we are angry, if we hold grudges, if we are locked into judgment, that vibrates. That's a vibration. So we're actually keeping ourselves stuck. And in psychology, there is a word for that mechanism. And that mechanism inside of us is called our ego. And while the ego can be great at a higher vibration, it can destroy us at a lower vibration. So at this type of stuckness, this type of being stuck in life is perpetuated by our own mind and our own heart. And we feel victimized by others, but they're not doing it. We're doing it to ourselves. So that's where self-awareness, when we have to say, oh my gosh, I'm keeping myself stuck because I'm being stubborn, right? My thoughts and my judgments and my toxic thinking and the way that I'm gossiping, or I'm just perpetuating it, and the way that I'm saying awful things about this group or that group or whatever, I'm toxifying my own consciousness. Right? When we figure that out, it's like, oh my gosh, the only way I'm going to get out of this is up, raising my frequency. So, however, let me say one more thing about this, because what you said was through self-awareness. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a whole nother level to this. And that's the ultra consciousness. So ultra consciousness is where we're not only developing self-awareness, we're developing awareness of the universe. And so that's a whole different level of tapping into our higher self, something that is tapped into a higher intelligence, right? And a lot of people call that God. So that's beyond self-awareness. That's like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other level that is supporting us in being well.
Wow. So much things running through my mind. So some of the words that stuck with me there is humility, being responsible for our actions and the words that we put. I know a lot of times, well, in our lingo and in our language, they say be careful of the words you put into the atmosphere, and it really is signifying and explaining what you are saying, because a lot of times what we feed into the atmosphere actually is like the atmosphere is alive, and what you say it becomes. So if you continue to speak negatively over situations, over your thoughts, the way you process things, then it becomes your reality. And I could understand how you're saying that your persons might be in this state where they feel like they are victimized because nothing is happening, but it's really you putting yourself into that space sometimes, right? And it also piggybacks on Anthony Charles when we had him like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he spoke about, when he was going through his depressed states, he reached to that point where he realized that it was beyond him. And I think that will go into the ultra consciousness. It was beyond him. He tried everything, but he came to that spot where he realized that it was beyond him right now, and he needed to just surrender himself. And that is how he reached out to God, and God was the one who was able to take him out of that depressive state. So I'm really understanding it now from the scientific part and the psychological part and the clinical sections.
Well,
You go,
that's
girl.
the
You really
exciting
break
thing
it down.
about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the exciting thing about it
Yeah.
because it's exactly where science and spirituality come together,
Yes.
Collide. Yeah.
right? That's the exciting thing because when you think of it this way, and when we're looking at it from an energetic standpoint, okay, energy that you can't see but we know is there because we experience it, because emotion is an energy. We can't see emotion, so what is it? It's an energy,
Yeah.
right? So when we understand that it takes one string of light to shift our reality, just one string, if we can hold on to and find one string of hope, right, that you might call it, one string of potential, one string, one small opening of possibility, and we say yes to that, we've just shifted our reality. And we have moved beyond, on some level, moved beyond depression and gotten flow back into our life.
Wow.
Awesome. Awesome. Just awesome. Just awesome. So, Anthony has taken the spotlight again. Um, Gabriella, you go ahead.
All right. So Anthony is saying that the quantum is the elemental explanation of the spiritual.
Hmm.
And then he said, well said, Gabrielle." Thank you so much. Yeah, it is the explanation of the spiritual realm.
It is. It is. It is so exciting.
In your personal journey, was there a time where you felt, emotionally overwhelmed? And how did that encounter help you with your ultra consciousness? And how did it shift you at that moment?
So I I wouldn't say that being emotionally overwhelmed was the problem,
Yeah.
right? I would say being emotionally ignorant was the problem,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We only have a few emotions when it comes right down to it. We have 9 emotions, period, right? And I won't go through all of them, but
Yeah.
we know most of them. We have anger, sadness. There is an emotion that is used too often and not for the right things, and it's the actual core emotion of disgust. That emotion is supposed to keep us away from dangerous situations, like illnesses, like germs, right? But that's an emotion that's being used way too often and applied to way too many things.
Yeah.
We have fear. Okay, those are the only negative emotions we have. There's 4 of them, right? And they run our life. Okay, so we have 4 positive emotions. We have joy, delight, humor, and and well, we get into serenity, right? The higher emotions. All right. All of these emotions work together to to help us learn things, right? So if we were just in a zen state all the time, we're not going to evolve because there's no reason to evolve, right? We have to learn, like we have to learn life's lessons. Okay, so once we understand that those emotions are there to help us stay on our path, if we get angry about something, maybe we need to stay away from that thing, right? If we're sad, maybe we're discovering the depth of our own psyche, right? If we're fearful, maybe we don't have the tools we need to succeed in life, right? So all of the emotions aren't bad. They're just misunderstood and they're misused. Once we understand that, we can start building our experience of the higher emotions. And the higher emotions, like delight or bliss, we can train ourselves. We can go out into the sun, and rather than saying, oh yeah, beautiful day, wonderful day, we can say, let me feel this. Let me feel this delight. Let me feel this joy. Let me feel, right? Because all of the emotions originate in our stomach and our heart, right? We only have a small area that we feel it all, and then it radiates through our life. So we have to train ourselves. If we've been giving too much space to the lower emotions, we need to train ourselves to turn the volume down on those, learn from them, and begin to turn the volume up on the higher emotions where we can connect and have a higher emotional experience. So I wouldn't say that I was overwhelmed by emotions in my life, but I certainly did not understand them like I understand them now. I was more reactionary.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm angry. It really is their fault. Right? I did that thing for a long time, I think, until I realized that is just not what my emotions are to be for. My emotions are to experience the higher, refined, more elevated experience of life. That's what I want my emotions. That's what I want my heart to be about.
Yeah. Awesome. I have one more question. When it comes to silence, or the power of being still, when it comes to the healing process, what role does that play, especially when your mind always in this space of reason, especially when you have so much challenges that you are facing? What does the role of silence or stillness play?
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So practicing silence, right? That's really great. So basically, remember when I said that if we're injured, if we're in a place in life that's injuring us, we need to get it to a safe place.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're in a safe place, we can relax. Okay? So this is back to the ego structure. When we're feeling fearful, when we're feeling the lower emotions, we're going to contract. Okay, so then that's what's called the defense structure. So then we're walking through life kind of tough, right? Tough. We're being tough. But we're disconnected. We may be tough, but we're not connected to anything. All right?
Yeah.
So the thing we have to do is we have to get into a location where we can be ourselves again, where we can just let it go and be more authentically who we are in the moment. That opens up the potential for silence to heal us. Okay? Because here's the thing about healing. Healing is the digestion of life. Okay? Healing, and it happens in our core, right? So we have to digest life. We have to process it. We have to give it time to integrate. We have to take what's helpful and leave the rest. All right? That happens in our subconscious a lot, right? We have 95% of our consciousness is below the surface. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take what's good and leave the rest. But because so much of the bad it's overflowing into our consciousness, we don't even have a chance. So being silent is about letting our psyche do what it can do to process and release. And in the silence, if we can focus on something that is not the pain, like music. I mean, we're silent, but maybe there's music in the background, or maybe there's a candle, or maybe the sun is streaming in. If we can focus on the higher vibration in the silence, that gives our psyche, our subconscious, time to move, time to, sort things through. And we don't even need to know what it is. It's just doing what it naturally does, which is healing.
Yeah.
Awesome. The scripture that's coming to my head, Andy, to be still and know that I am God. That's what is coming to mind.
Yeah, that's Exodus 14.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, Bernadine S. Woods. All right, Gabriella, you go ahead. I'm staying out.
Oh Lord. Wow. Information for everyday life and everyday situations. Knowledge is power. Without it, we would be responsible for keeping ourselves stuck and going around in circles. I hope all who are tuned in receive this priceless information.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bernadine. That's wonderful to hear. Wonderful to hear. Yeah, just little things can open up. Like I said, one little string of a insight can change our lives if we let it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm reminded of something that I heard about an individual who came from the Middle East, and he was about, I think, 95 years of age. But he was not the normal 95 years of age. He didn't appear to have any physical restrictions or limitations. He was very lucid and open in his thought, and quite amicable and amiable, that kind of open and simple person. And someone was interviewing him and asking him, so how did you manage to live like this for so long? And he replied, well, through my everyday pursuit of life, I try to avoid arguments. If someone thinks that they are right, I say, fine, you're right. If someone thinks that they are wrong, I say, fine, you're wrong. And the person who's doing the interview says, that's it? He said, yes, I just stay away from arguments and keep my peace. And he said, well, no, there's no way that could be it. It's got to be more than that. And he kept silent. The 95-year-old guy kept silent. And the interviewer kept beating up himself. And then when he couldn't get a response, he said, well, tell me, is there something more? He said, no, there's nothing more, but you just proved my theory to be correct. Because what I told you was my solution for being this healthy for so long at 95. You insisted that it was something more. And I leave you to that because those things are what causes us to age faster than anything in this life.
Wow.
Basically, that was the end of the interview. So, I mean, it's just amazing perspective that people have, and it's just so much more refreshing when you can avoid all those negative things from entering into your space. And as you said, Daphne, always seek to take you emotionally and spiritually to a higher level.
Yes, that's the direction.
Yes. Wow.
Yep.
Wonderful. So we have to release Daphne now, but we're going to continue. And Daphne, I'm going to make contact with your assistant, and
wonderful.
We're going to get this information across to you guys, edited version, so you can put on your platforms and share it with your people as well.
Absolutely.
Right, and we're going to stream it on other platforms as well when we do it.
Thank you so much, Andy and Gabriella. This has been a wonderful connection.
You're most welcome.
Really appreciate it.
We love you, and we thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
Same
welcome.
here.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome.
Gonna make it, but I'm alone. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. Trouble in my way, but daily hear me say, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way. The harvest is plenty, Lord, but the workers are so few. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, men are dying, Lord, there's just so much work to do. Gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. Trouble in my way, but daily hear me say, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way. The harvest is plenty, Lord, but the workers are so few. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it.